Chapter 3. By noon, Zwinger Street showed signs of coming to life. A half-hearted winter's sunshine had broken through the gloom, adding no real joy to the scene, only a sickly smile. The sidewalks were now populated with women, and quite a few men in their antiquing clothes, deliberately outlandish, mismatched, or shabby. They moved from shop to shop while waiting for the auction at 1:30. Quillerin decided there was time for a quick lunch and found a diner, where he gulped a leathery hot dog on a spongy roll, a beverage claiming to be coffee, and a piece of synthetic pie made of paper mache. He also telephoned to the feature editor and asked for a photographer. About this auction, he told Arch Riker. We should get some candids of the crowd. Their get-ups are incredible. I told you Junktown was colorful, Riker reminded him. Don't send me Tiny Spooner. He's a clumsy oaf, and there are lots of breakables here. At this short notice, we'll have to take any man we can get. Have you bought any antiques yet? No! Quillerin bellowed into the mouthpiece, at the same time thinking warmly of the Macintosh coat of arms. By 1 o'clock, the scene of the auction was crowded. Andrew Glanz had done business in a large building, probably dating from the 1920s, when the neighborhood had begun to go commercial. The high ceiling was hung with ladder-back chairs, copper pots, bird cages, sleds, and chandeliers of every description. The floor was crowded with furniture in a disorganized jumble, pushed back to make room for rows of folding chairs. A narrow stairway led to a balcony, and from its railings hung oriental rugs and faded tapestries. Everywhere there were signs reminding customers, if you break it, you've bought it. The auction goers were circulating, examining the merchandise with studious frowns, looking at the underside of plates, ringing crystal with a flick of a finger. Quillerin pushed through the crowd, making mental notes of the conversation around him. Look at this rocking horse. I had one exactly like it in the attic, and my husband burned it in the fireplace. If it has a little man with a parasol on the bridge, it's Canton China. But if he's sitting in the tea house, it's Nanking. Or maybe it's the other way around. What's this thing? It would make a wonderful punch bowl. I don't see the finial anywhere, thank God. There's Andy's stepladder. My grandmother had a Meissen ewer, but hers was blue. Do you think they'll put up the finial? As the auction hour approached, people began to take seats facing the platform, and Quillerin found a chair at the end of a row where he could watch for the Fluxion photographer to arrive. There were all kinds, all ages in the audience. One man, in a Hudson Bay blanket coat, carried a small dog dressed to match. Another was wearing a Santa Claus cap and a rainbow-striped muffler that hung down to the floor. Next to Quillerin sat a plump woman with 2 pairs of glasses hanging from ribbons around her neck. This is my first auction, he said to her. Do you have any advice for a greenhorn? The woman had been designed with a compass, large round pupils and round eyes, and a round face. She gave him a half-circular smile. Don't scratch your ear, or you'll find you've bought that pier mirror. She pointed to a narrow mirror in an ornate frame that towered a good 14 feet high and leaned against the balcony rail. I was afraid I'd miss the auction. I had to go to the eye doctor, and he kept me waiting. He put drops in my eyes, and I can't see a thing. What's the finial that everyone's talking about? She shivered. Don't you know about Andy's accident? I heard he fell off a ladder. Worse than that. She made a pained face. Let's skip the details. It makes me sick to my stomach. At first I thought you were an out-of-town dealer, I'm from the Daily Fluxion. Really? She smoothed her ash-colored hair and turned adoring pupils in his direction. Are you going to write up the auction? I'm Iris Cobb. My husband runs the junkery down the street. You must be the people with the apartment to rent. Are you interested? You'd love it. It's furnished with antiques. The woman kept glancing toward the door. Wonder if my husband is here yet. I can't see a thing. What does he look like? Tall and nice looking, and probably needs a shave. He'll be wearing a red flannel shirt. He's standing at the back, next to a grandfather's clock. The woman settled back in her chair. I'm glad he got here. He'll do the bidding, and I don't have to worry about it. He's talking to a character in a Santa Claus cap. That must be Ben Nicholas. Ben rents one of our apartments and runs a shop called Bit of Junk. With an affectionate smile, she added, He's an idiot. Anyone else I should know? There's a blonde guy on crutches, all dressed in white. Russell Patch, the refinisher. He never wears anything but white. She lowered her voice. In front of us, the thin man, he's Hollis Prance. He has a new shop called Techtiques. The man with the briefcase is Robert Mouse, attorney for the estate. Willerin was impressed. The firm of T-Handle, Burris, Hansblow, Mouse, and Castle was the most prestigious in the city. Mr. Mouse has a personal interest in Junktown, Mrs. Cobb explained. Otherwise, the rapping of a gavel interrupted the conversation in the audience, and the auctioneer opened the sale. He wore a dark business suit with a plaid shirt, string tie, and Texas boots. We have a lot of good goods here today, he said, and some smart cookies in the audience, so bid fast if you want to buy. Please refrain from unnecessary yakking so I can hear spoken bids. Let's go. He struck the lectern with an ivory hammer. We'll start with a Bennington Hound Handle pitcher, Collector's Dream. Slight chip, but what's the difference? Who will give me 5? 5 is bid. Now 6. 6 is bid. Do I hear 7? 7 over here. 8 over there. Anybody give 9? 8 I've got. Sold for 8. There were protests from the audience. Too fast for you, Claudes, eh? If you want to buy, keep on your toes, the auctioneer said crisply. You've got a lot of stuff to move this afternoon. He's good, Mrs. Cobb whispered to Quillerin. Wait till he really gets wound up. Every 60 seconds, another item went down under the hammer. A silver inkwell, pewter goblets, a pair of bisque figures, a prayer rug, an ivory snuff box. 3 assistants were kept busy up and down the aisles, while porters carried items to and from the platform. And now we have a fine, fat, cast-iron stove, said the auctioneer, raising his voice. We won't lug it to the platform because your eagle eyes can see it on the stair landing. Who will give me 50? All heads turned to look at a sculptured black monster with a bloated silhouette and bow-legged stance. 50 I have. We'll say 75. It's a beauty. 75 is bid. Do I hear 100? You're getting it cheap. I have 100. What do I hear? 110. It's worth twice the price. 120 is bid. 130 back there. Don't lose this prize. A nice big stove. Big enough to hide a body. 140 is bid. Make it 150. Sold for 150. The auctioneer turned to the assistant who recorded sales. Sold to C.C. Cobb. Mrs. Cobb gasped. That fool, she said. We'll never get our money out of it. I'll bet Ben Nicholas was bidding against him. The bids were going up too fast. Ben didn't want that stove. He was bidding just to be funny. He does it all the time. He knew Cece wouldn't let him have it. She turned around and glared with unseeing eyes in the direction of the red flannel shirt and the Santa Claus cap. The auctioneer was saying, "And now, before we take an intermission, we'll unload a few items of office equipment." There were reference books, a filing cabinet, a portable tape recorder, a typewriter, mundane items that had little interest for the crowd of junkers. Mrs. Cobb made a hesitant bid on the tape recorder and got it for a pittance. "And here we have a portable typewriter, sold as is, one letter missing. Who will give me 50? Do I hear 50? I'll take 40. I think it's the Z that's missing. I'm waiting for 40. 30 then. Who'll say 30? 20, said Quillerin, to his own surprise. Sold to the astute gentleman with the big mustache for 20 smackers. And now we'll take a 15-minute break." Quillerin was stunned by his windfall. He had not expected to do any bidding. "Let's stretch our legs," Mrs. Cobb said, pulling at his sleeve in a familiar way. As they stood up, they were confronted by the man in the red flannel shirt. "Why'd you buy that stupid tape recorder?" he demanded of his wife. "You wait and see," she said, with a saucy shake of her head. "This is a reporter from the Daily Flexion. He's interested in our vacant apartment." "It's not for rent. I don't like reporters," Cobb growled, and walked away with his hands in his trouser pockets. "My husband is the most obnoxious dealer in Junktown," Mrs. Cobb said with pride. "Don't you think he's good looking?" Quillerin was trying to think of a tactful reply when there was a crash near the front door, followed by exclamations and groans. The Fluxion photographer was standing at the entrance. Tiny Spooner was 6'3" and weighed close to 400 pounds, including the photographic equipment draped about his person. Added to his obesity were cameras, lens cases, meters, lights, film kits, and folding tripods dangling from straps and connected by trailing cords. Mrs. Cobb said, "What a shame. Must have been the Sèvres vase on the Empire pedestal." "Was it valuable?" "Worth about $800, I guess." "Save my seat for me," Quillerin said. "I'll be right back." Tiny Spooner was standing near the door, looking uncomfortable. "So help me, I'm innocent," he told Quillerin. "I was nowhere near the silly thing." He shifted the equipment that hung around his neck and over both shoulders, and his tripod whacked a bust of Marie Antoinette. Quillerin flung his arms around the white marble. "Oops," said Tiny. The auctioneer was looking at the remains of the Sèvres vase, instructing the porter to gather the shattered fragments carefully, and Quillerin thought it was time to introduce himself. "We want to get a few candid shots during the bidding," he told the auctioneer. "You can proceed normally. Don't pay any attention to the photographer." Spooner said, "I'd like to get some elevation and shoot down. Do you have a stepladder?" There was an awkward pause. Someone laughed nervously. "Skip it," said the photographer. "I see there's a balcony. I'll shoot from the stairway." "Take it easy," Quillerin cautioned him. "If you break it, you've bought it." Spooner surveyed the scene with scorn. "You want form or content? I don't know what I can do with this rubbish. Too many dynamic lines, and no chiaroscuro." He waddled toward the stairway, his photo equipment swinging, and the wagging tripod narrowly missed the crown glass doors of a brake front. Back in his seat, Quillerin explained to Mrs. Cobb, "He's the only press photographer I know with a PhD in mathematics. but he's inclined to be clumsy. My goodness, she said. If he's so smart, why is he working for a newspaper? The gavel rapped, and the second half of the auction began, bringing out the most desirable items. An English bookcase, a buhl commode, a 17th century Greek icon, a small collection of Benin bronzes. Occasionally, there was a flash from the photographer's lights, and women in the audience touched their hair and assumed bright, intelligent expressions. And now, said the auctioneer, we have this beautiful pair of French chairs in the original. There was a shriek, a shout. Look out! A porter lunged forward with arms outstretched, barely in time to steady a teetering mirror, the pier mirror that almost reached the ceiling. In another second, the towering glass would have crashed on the audience. The spectators gasped, and Quillerin said, "Whew." At the same time, he scanned the crowd for Spooner. The photographer was leaning over the balcony railing. He caught the newsman's eye and shrugged. Mrs. Cobb said, I've never seen so many accidents at an auction. It gives me the creeps. Do you believe in ghosts? The audience was nervous and noisy. The auctioneer raised his voice and increased the tempo of his spiel, waving his hand, jabbing his finger at bidders, jerking his thumb over his shoulder when each item was sold. He whipped the spectators into a frenzy. Do you want this or don't you? 500 I've got. Do I hear 600? What's the matter with you? It's 200 years old. I want 7. I'll buy it myself for 7. Going, take it away. The thumb jerked, the gavel crashed on the lectern, and the excitement in the audience reached a crescendo. The 200-year-old desk was removed, and the spectators waited eagerly for the next item. At this point, there was a significant pause in the action as the auctioneer spoke to the attorney. It was a pantomime of indecision. Then they both nodded and beckoned to a porter. A moment later, a hush fell on the crowd. The porter had placed a curious object on the platform, a tall, slender ornament about 3 feet high. It had a square base topped by a brass ball, and then a shaft of black metal tapering up to a sword-like point. That's it, someone whispered behind Quillerin. That's the finial. Beside him, Mrs. Cobb was shaking her head and covering her face with her hands. They shouldn't have done it. We have here, said the auctioneer in slow, deliberate tones, the finial from a rooftop. Probably an ornament from an old house in the Zwinger reclamation area. The ball is solid brass. Needs a little polishing. What am I offered? The people seated around Quillerin were shocked. Makes my blood run cold, one whispered. I didn't think they'd have the nerve to put it up. Who's bidding? Can you see who's bidding? Very bad taste. Very bad, someone said. Did Andy actually fall on it? Didn't you know? He was impaled. Sold, snapped the auctioneer. Sold to C.C. Cobb. No, cried Mrs. Cobb. At that moment, there was a spine-chilling crash. A bronze chandelier let loose from the ceiling and crashed to the floor, narrowly missing Mr. Mouse, the attorney.